As many of you know, I'm an enormous Dick Grayson Nightwing fan. We've had a weird run on this Nightwing since 2016. We had the worst Nightwing story ever told, the Rick Grayson amnesia angle. That thing was absolutely terrible. Along the way, we had Unforgiven, which I think is one of the better Nightwing stories ever told, with a really cool villain that we'll never see again called the Governor, something like that. I can't remember the name of the villain, but we haven't seen him. And now we've been in this Tom Taylor Nightwing run leading up to issue 100. And there's been little bits of momentum towards a Nightwing Barbara Gordon marriage and Nightwing finally defeating Heartless. We get the milestone here, and here to talk to me about that is Jim from Weird Science. How you doing, Jim?
Doing great. And just to throw it out there, Dick Grayson, Nightwing, my favorite character, number one.
And you like this comic book much more than I did. You gave it a 7 out of 10. And I thought you were being very generous.
Yes, throwing me under the bus, right away. But I have a feeling that by the time me and you get done talking, that score might go down a teeny little bit, because with each reread of this, I actually have been like, maybe I was a little bit too gracious with that 7.
You would expect something big to happen in the milestone. They did charge $7 for it. It is a plus-size comic book. You would expect the confrontation between Heartless and Nightwing to finally happen, or possibly and the Dick Grayson, Barbara Gordon shotgun wedding to happen. Neither of them happened here. They wasted what little momentum they had so Tom Taylor could go on a soapbox and use words that make no sense for Dick Grayson.
Yeah, I agree. And really, for a while now on the podcast, even on the videos, I've been saying that this has to be a wedding issue. I keep saying it. Then we're getting closer and closer. Okay, this has to be an engagement. I kept backing away. Okay, this must be an engagement. At the end, I'm like, just go on a date or something. Give us something, because you end up having a 100. You have to do something big. You have to do something big. And what you end up having Tom Taylor do, get on a soapbox and try to have a celebration of the character, which is fine, except that that's what every issue of his run has been. And this could have been something bigger and better.
Yeah, it felt like more the same, but just Tom Taylor talking about prison reform. That's got to be at least 20 to 25% of the entire story is Dick Grayson, Nightwing, talking about the prison in Bloodhaven. But if you're Dick Grayson, Nightwing, you put a lot of those people in the prison, and you know that they're there because they're criminals, they're murderers. Mm-hmm. Bloodhaven is one of the worst cities in the United States in the DC Comics universe. Those people are there for a reason. Dick Grayson would know that, but we're not hearing Dick Grayson speak, and that's a huge issue for me. This is Tom Taylor talking about bail reform and why he doesn't like prisons. Apparently, he believes everyone in prison is innocent.
Yeah, and the weird play of this is that, and not even a weird play, it's been every issue of his series, when he throws in politics, which people will complain, oh my God, we've always had politics in comics. That's true. You've always had issues, social issues, things like that. But what I don't like about what Tom Taylor does, it's surface level. There's no solution to it, and he only digs into the very surface of it. Yes, there are people in jail that are innocent, but he neglects to say that a lot of them, like you said, not only did Dick Grayson put them in there as Nightwing, but he was also a cop. And that was, back in the past. And that has been brought up as it's in this timeline. He should know that a lot of people are actually guilty in the whole deal. And there's more to it than just saying bail. Oh my God, the bail's high. Oh my God, the prisons are overworked. Well, you got to start looking at other things. And unfortunately, there's not enough room in comics to do a lot of that stuff. So that's where I wonder why things like this are brought up in the way they are, because there's never a solution. And by the end, you just shrug your shoulders and just know, okay, this was signaling. That's all it was.
There was a solution in this comic book. That is also an enormous problem. At the end, the solution for Dick Grayson Nightwing, who's a billionaire because Alfred gave him all his money, is that he bought the prison and turned it into Titan's Tower. Exactly. So there's no longer a prison in Bloodhaven. No. How stupid is he? He just took the prison away from the city that has a major crime problem and let all the prisoners go back into the city to go back and rape and murder people?
Wes, he took away the prison after a prison riot escape, and we never saw any of those prisoners being rounded up. You almost leave this issue as the idea that Dick Grayson went to them and said, hey, everybody, let's get together. Let's have a hug. Let's promise, we're going to do pinky swear. don't do any more crime. You guys can go. You rapist, murderer, and you that had a speeding ticket. All of you are the same. Get out of here, you scamps, and go, because I'm buying the prison and not making it better, not making it more humane, not figuring out things. I'm going to turn it into Titan's Tower so that people, when they come into the city, they'll see the Titan's Tower first. The second thing they're going to see is a city on fire and everybody committing crimes. That's all it is.
I've lived in a city that had a major prison when I was in California. And I can tell you right now, if you took that prison away from Lompoc, the city would go into disarray because of all the jobs they would lose.
The jobs as well. That's
it's
again,
part of the
there's
infrastructure of the neighborhoods.
Yes,
that's
the
there.
Surface level stuff. He's not thinking it through. He does, and at one point he would probably argue this is he has Melinda Zucco, Dick's sister, half sister. She's the mayor, and she goes, I'm going to look into this and I'll figure it out. And then she gets in her limo and goes. And just the idea of the red tape and what is she going to do? Just sit there and say, from now on, no prisons. I don't even know what she's going. The whole thing seemed to center on high bail, right? Really? Also, just the idea that if there is a problem, we know that it's the police force. It's and yet there's Dick Grayson, who Tom Taylor wants to make this, on an elevated status with. He just throws money at everything. That's all he does. And almost at a point where it makes Alfred look bad because Alfred just sat on the money and didn't do anything. Dick Grayson just, you go up to him and say, I think there's a lot of jaywalkers in this town. He'll just throw money at you to go and maybe, I don't know, get rid of streets so you don't have that. It just makes no sense. It really doesn't.
No, it makes him look completely stupid. I did not like that part of the ending. I don't understand how anyone gave this comic book a 10. There were a lot of them on Comic Book Roundup. Like, those people are suspect, if you ask me. If you gave this comic book a 10, you are an idiot. You were not paying attention, and you do not expect enough out of a $7 milestone comic book issue because we get almost nothing here. Thankfully, there are a couple of highlights. The Titans do show up. And in a Nightwing 100, you would expect them to be there. I just wish you would have done something else with them. Yes, there is this prison break, and they're basically just manual labor rounding up people or checking for the violent ones. I don't even know what the hell they were doing. The only real thing that he did was cool was you had the Elephant Man ram heads with Beast Boy as an elephant. Otherwise, cool. He didn't do anything interesting with the Titans.
No, not at all. Really, the Titans are here for two scenes. Elephant Man, and then when KGBEAST ends up saying, hey, Nightwing, I have a big army of people, he says, so do I. And then they clash. That's it. And the problem is that up until this, you have to go with what led up to this big issue. Dick Grayson never solves a problem on his own. Even the idea that Blockbuster, one of his biggest villains of all time, gets taken out by Heartless, the serial killer he refuses to take down. But if you would have had throughout all this run, the Titans wanting to help and Dick, no, and seeing Dick get tired, blah, 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 you get to this issue and the Titans finally get to help, would have been a huge moment. You would have said, oh my God, there you go. That's what this whole thing is about, friendship and teammates. But it's always been that. So this is really, at that point, it's a celebration of a run that's only been a celebration, and it feels a little empty because of that, and maybe a lot empty. I mean, it really does. Everything combined, this has some issues.
Now, you mentioned KGBEAST. He's in the prison, and he's released by Heartless. He's very enthusiastic to help Heartless in his army of masked warriors, whatever you want to call them. I guess it's a mercenary team or something. And we do get a big battle between Dick Grayson and KGBEAST. But once again, they're referring to Dick Grayson getting amnesia and being Rick Grayson. One, I don't ever want anyone to refer to that again because it was so bad and I want to forget that ever happened. But this has been addressed 3 times now.
Yep,
Batman already solved the problem once.
Yeah.
Dick Grayson solved the problem the other time.
They're making it really, this becomes Jason Todd and the Crowbar. This is the same thing. A lot of characters get caught up in this, and Dick Grayson doesn't need to be. First off, that's one of the worst things that they ever decided to have happen to him. So every fan wants to forget it anyway, and maybe occasionally make fun of it, but not go with this is what drives Nightwing. And I get the idea KGBeast would probably be like, well, I don't even remember that. Like, really, dude, that was one thing I did. That was just to get at Batman. Anyway, so, let's shake on it and go because I'm sick of this. They've ended up nerfing KGB so bad since then anyway that I don't even think of him as a threat anymore. He got taken down by Batgirl in her run back with Cecil Castellucci in the most ridiculous way. Just let him lie aside until you can kind of prop him up again. But you're just going to do that just because that's that. Again, a surface level thing. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's just a reminder of stuff no one wants to hear about. Whatever. The biggest issue, and we've talked about some of the issues with this, is there was momentum, very slow momentum, because Heartless has been ripping the hearts out of the citizens of Bloodhaven for like 2 years now, and Dick Grayson has done nothing. He takes over the prison. The Titans show up to allow him, I guess, to go into the prison to confront Heartless, and he gets away again. They never even really fight.
No, he gets away. And again, you have Heartless go into the prison. Tom Taylor wants to play a game here where, okay, I'm going to give you all masks. I'm getting that he's doing the whole anonymity thing online. And, oh, look at how people could be, angry and awful then. And then you have Heartless going around. Remember, Heartless now has been in this for 23 issues. He has been ripping out fathers' hearts. You ended up having most of the kids at the beginning of this run homeless because Heartless had ripped out their father's, mother's hearts. And yet Dick Grayson does not seem to be that inspired.
He's
to bring
just
this
making
guy
statues
down.
and talking about how great he and Alfred are.
And again, this is where I'm talking about the prison. He'd rather make statues, hot dog carts, and talk about how great everything is while kids are homeless because the serial killer's ripping out hearts. He never goes after the root of the problem. He never will because that's not Tom Taylor's deal. He's here for the wow moment.
How is this not the end of the Heartless story? This is the moment. How did we miss this?
When you're going, and if you're not going to get an engagement, shotgun, something like that, you end up where, okay, then this must be Heartless's end.
If you're going to slow roll it, at least you slow rolled it to get to 100 for the big finale.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, this guy Heartless has been around so long, his motivations have changed a bit. At one point, he was, I will only take hearts of people who are loved and will be missed. That's out the window. Now he's just ripping things out and was the one who took down Blockbuster, which, all these things. Nightwing should be furious. He should not go to sleep until this guy is done, but he'd rather pose. He'd rather say, yeah, Titans, Titans go. Like, go after Heartless and get him done. This is ridiculous. It's gone on too long. It's gone on way too long.
I don't understand how they could have missed the boat on that one. Like, you built up to two things, and you didn't do either of them in the big milestone.
No.
You teased one of them, then didn't do it. Like, my goodness. And then we get to the big moment afterwards. We know the Justice League, now that they've returned, aren't actually returning. The Justice League are disbanded. And he gets a talking to from Superman and Wonder Woman about how great he is again.
Listen, they're telling Dick Grayson he's the greatest thing ever, while Bloodhaven at the moment is on fire. He has a serial killer going through his city, and he can't take him down. The prison's all destroyed, riots, all this. You know what? You've done great, kid. I mean, this is not good timing, right? The idea that everything in Bloodhaven has gone to shit right now. But you know what? You're really great for and. Hey, we want you to get out of Bloodhaven. You've done so much good there. We need you to police the world as the Justice. I love the idea, too. We don't want to be the Justice League, but we want you to do something, but we won't call it the Justice League. But really, how about this? Get all of you together and get a bigger team. Figure out, again, surface level. Why isn't the Justice League working? Why? No, it's just, hey, let them do it. And it doesn't feel earned here because the Justice League is kind of just quitting. This isn't like, hey, we're getting old. We got to do this. Oh, this guy's it. No. They just feel like they're
Justice League
done.
did something bad, and the world doesn't trust them anymore, and the Titans have to step in.
Yeah. No, and really,
maybe something made sense.
Yeah, something. Yeah, it's something because people who are fans of Dick Grayson and the Titans, and a lot of this too, you have to go back to Dan DiDio not loving Dick Grayson. So everybody's eating this up because we're finally able to get a bunch of things. But when you end up, the Titans are going to be the big team, they're going to take over. How can you get to a point where it actually doesn't feel earned?
But it's not going to be the Titans. It's going to be Dick Grayson. It's going to be John Kent. It's going to be JoJo Mullins. It's going to be James Fox. It's going to be all the JLQ members and Dick Grayson. So you have to like the team because everyone likes Dick Grayson. Like, I can't see what their strategy is. Like, it's so obvious.
I don't know. I love Dick Grayson, and I've said it before. This is like Tom Taylor writes this book like a PR agent, not a writer. And also it is annoying as if he's there with his new girlfriend and keeps yelling at you. Oh, she's so great. She's so great. She's so great. You're like, finally, like, I've had enough. Like, she can't be that great. And really, he's flawless. And that is something that is a funny play, because that's one of the things like Dan DiDio was against, the idea that you have to have a bit of a flaw, a bit of darkness, and people, oh, Dan DiDio. But we're seeing it here in a run. And if back to my score, the idea, and I know we're not done, but this is an easy issue to recommend to somebody because it is kind of a hopeful deal. It has that tone.
Feel good about it.
Yeah,
but if you think about it, if you think about what led up to this and what's actually happening here, a lot of it doesn't make sense. It doesn't sound like Dick Grayson. And the moment with Batman, that was pure cringe. Yeah. Batman breaking down about how great Dick Grayson is and how much better of a man he is than he is, just verbally filleting him, and then finally Dick Grayson calls him dad.
Yeah. Here's the thing: if you rework the scene, it might be able to work. It goes too far. To me, one of the bigger moments that you used to have was when Batman would take off the cowl. And that would be the idea of, listen, I'm no longer, I don't want to talk to you as Batman. I want to talk to you as Bruce. That always used to get emotions. People do that all the time. It's a wow moment. The idea of just them saying, hey, we've had a lot of things go wrong. I miss Alfred. That I like that because they haven't had a lot of time to commiserate and things like that. But it just goes
3 years, man.
It goes too far.
Everybody keeps doing it.
I know this goes too far, and again,
way too far.
It's the idea.
That's not Batman.
It is the idea of Tom Taylor.
That's
and a lot
Tom
of new
Taylor
writers
in Batman's cowl, like verbally filleting Nightwing and fucking crying over him.
Yeah, but this is the problem is, and I'll tell you. Nowadays, it seems like writers have forgotten how to elevate a character without lessening another. It just seems to be this battle. This is the problem. Dick Grayson, Batman. Dick Grayson went to be Nightwing to not be Robin or be, he's his own thing.
The reason he was cool is because he was juxtaposed to Batman.
It's not a contest.
Batman really admired him. It's because they did things differently.
Exactly. Yeah. And in a series leading up to this, everybody's been just Dick Grayson, Nightwing. He's the greatest. He's the greatest. He's the greatest. I'm telling you, as a side deal, I would have loved to have had this crazy deal that by the end of this, we find out this wasn't really our Dick Grayson, and this is a dupe that has been acting so over the top perfect that now we realize that it's a big plan to turn. I'm telling you, Earth 3, whatever it would be. I'm like,
it does feel like one of those turns that's really poorly done in comic books where the character shows up and they're so good they can't be true.
They're so good they can't be. Yeah, exactly. And with all of these multiversal changes, timeline shifts, all these things, I think it would have been the perfect time. And with that, I think it really would have been like, holy crap, like it would have made everything great. But this just ends up being, but this is what Tom Taylor does. And I wonder why. I keep thinking that he was known as the guy who kills characters. He was with his Elseworld stuff. He was known for evil Superman. I think that he's like trying to change his image, but he's doing it in a way of so over the top. Everybody in his book who's like John Kent, Dick Grayson, they have to be perfect. Heroes don't have to be perfect.
Well, in their monologues, what they're saying feels like it's out of Twitter. It doesn't feel like this to characters. I think he's so caught up in all the things happening around him, he's forgetting who the essence of the characters and that you have to have a story.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the problem. 10 out of 10s out the wazoo. People handing them out because, number one, because it's a milestone issue. They'll do that. They'll give a milestone, that sort of thing anyway. It is inoffensive, but it's just, you see these reviews, 10 out of 10, it's a celebration of the character. 10 out of 10, oh, the love of Dick Grayson.
7 out of 10 was pushing.
Yeah, really. I gave it a 7 and you're giving me crap. What Dick Grayson, what it feels like to me, it's when you end up miking up a player in a sport like the NFL, you mic them up. They're not going to say the usual stuff that it seems like Dick Grayson knows that we're listening in, and he's got to talk about these things that makes him look good. but yet it's all just lip service for the most part. And really what you want, and it's getting to the point, Dick Grayson, do something yourself and punch somebody in the face. Take down Heartless right now. Yeah, maybe even get to the point where you're almost going to kill him, but you pull back, whatever. But take him down. Do something in your own book. Don't rely on Barbara, the Titans, everybody. He got out of Gotham so that he could do things on his own. And yet here we are where everybody helps. But Tom Taylor thinks that that's great because it shows everybody loves Dick Grayson. Guess what? We know that.
Oh, I'm starting to not love him. That's the problem.
Well, that's the problem. Everybody in the books are loving it, right?
4.5, 5 out of 10.
I like the art, and there are a lot of artists on. I think they all do a good job.
There's some really good artists, but there are some bad transitions.
Yeah, and also just at the end, hey, out with the prison Titans Tower, and then I'm sitting there thinking, like, okay, I see 6 people. Why do you need that big tower anyway? There's 6 people there. Like, is that part? Even if he said like ridiculous, the top part's the Titans Tower, underneath that's the prison. He rails against prisons, and at the end just says, "No more prison." Right? Whatever. It's just ridiculous. It really is ridiculous the way that it ends. So I'm going to have to go down. I'm going down a point to a 6. And I still think I might be being positive as we talk about. You're ruining my dreams and hopes. It is, again, this series, if you haven't read it, it is an easy series to get into. Coming out of the Dick Grayson stuff, it really was easy to like as well. It was a celebration, but it never got past that. And it's one of those easy to get into, but also easy to just kind of, I'll check in with this later. To me, it's not really read monthly very well because you end up every issue and it feels like empty calories. It feels like you didn't get enough oomph for it.
Jim and I mentioned that we got the Titans coming up. They're replacing the Justice League. And one of the things Tom Taylor has done that has been really unsuccessful within this Nightwing run and on his Superman run with John Kent, the weird John Kent, Dick Grayson mentor-mentee relationship work. The worst moment was the lollipop incident. I thought this was one of the creepiest things I've ever seen in comic books. If you don't know about this, definitely check this out. You might think differently about Tom Taylor and Nightwing because this is fucking creepy. If you don't see the video here, there's also a link in the video description.